Alright, boyos, back with another video. Today we'll be discussing the sort of weird, disingenuous cope known as, well, bro, you might be a late bloomer, bro. And this is something I haven't heard as often compared to other sort of copes and sort of gaslight, quote unquote, advice people give, but it's a very disingenuous thing to say. But I want to be crystal clear that when I criticize this, this isn't criticizing like 14-year-olds or something, but this is criticizing more 18, 19, like early 20s, people who get told like, well, bro, you're only 18, bro. You might still somehow become a giga chad. And, it kind of reminds me of like men age like fine wine. Maybe I'll do a video on that again because I had that on my old channel. But again, when you're 18, when you're 19, your development is mostly done. And there really is not going to be, especially as a male, there's really not going to be that much more growing to do. If you are a 2 out of 10 guy with a recessed chin and a poorly defined jaw, there's not going to be any kind of late blooming that saves you. If you had the misfortune of starting to go bald early, there's not going to be any late blooming that fixes that. The only thing that would fix that would be getting a hair transplant and taking minoxidil. And some people do age pretty horribly when they're younger, unfortunately. And not to sort of say this as an, oh, well, they'll age horribly when they're younger, but then they'll age like fine when they're older. If you're aging bad at 25, you're going to be aging pretty bad at 55. And, with your height and with things like that, maybe you could, and this isn't a guarantee, maybe you could see a nominal, maybe a quarter inch, if you're lucky, half an inch final growth spurt that could happen. But that's very unlikely. It's not very common. And if you're 5'5" at 18, maybe you become 5'5" by 19 if you are lucky enough to experience that. But you're not going to go from 5'2" to 6'4" or 5'5" to 6'11", or even just something more reasonable like 6'5". And, you know, most people are not going to be these like ugly ducklings when they are young and then sort of blossom into something nicer, into a nice swan. That's not something that happens. Not often, at least. Now, I usually don't criticize like 12 or 13-year-olds. I'm not going to tell most 12 or 13-year-olds that it's over for them. Like if they have a decent jawline, if they have a decent chin, then I wait for them to see. Like if that's the thing is if you're kind of worried about that stuff, like if you have kids or if you know kids or if you're a young cell yourself, and I don't know why a 12-year-old would be watching this channel, but we'll just go along with it for this example. If they have a decent jaw already, a decent chin, all that, then I usually wait another 4, 5, 6 years to see what that turns into because maybe they'll develop better. Because, of course, you're not going to be done growing at 12. But the sort of late blooming, the ugly duckling turns into a swan because it's kind of two things, two sides of the same coin. But these are kind of both relevant because I think that most ugly ducklings are not going to turn into anything good. And again, like if you have a recessed jaw at 10, you're not going to suddenly have a defined jaw at 19. And if you have a crooked nose at 11, it's not going to straighten itself out. The only way you fix that is with nose surgery. And if you have a bad eye area, well, there really isn't anything you do in that situation. But, and again, I don't want this to be like some failed normies thing like, oh, if you're 12 years old and you're only 4'11 at 12, it's over for you, bro, because Musub 8 and stuff like that, which is complete nonsense because there's no real reason to try and, like, at least in terms of say it's over for like 12-year-olds, unless they're like bona fide sub fives, like recessed chin, bad jaw. I know this sounds a little bit like a broken record, but I'm trying to emphasize a point. If they don't have bad facial features, wait a few more years and see what happens to them development wise. I probably should have emphasized this more in my family pill video I did a few weeks back, but this is something I just wanted to add because it is something that can happen. And if you are someone that has a kid or kids, it's something to pay attention to. And it's important that if they are indeed a sub 5, that when they're 17 or 18 or 19 or 20, you don't gaslight them and say, now, you could turn into a Terra Chat at any day, bro. And I'll do the flip side now. If you are the ugly duckling that blossoms into a Chad, or to a high tier normie, or just a good looking person in general, it's important you don't waste that. If that somehow happens to you, and again, you have to already have some prerequisites, like I said earlier. If you already have decent facial symmetry, but you just sort of looked way too young for your age, or a bit androgynous, or you were just too short, again, there's always going to need to be that prerequisite. But if you manage to have that sort of blossom, then you need to capitalize on it. Don't waste it. If it happens to you when you're 18, if it happens to you when you're 19, then use that to your advantage. If you can get slays, if people want to socialize with you, if it gives you job offers, do not pass those up, because it is not something you're going to look back at in 10 years time with any sort of satisfaction, because you'll go, man, I didn't know that I was a late bloomer. I was a late bloomer and I fucked it up. So this is a shorter video, but I just wanted to make it. So shoot your comments in the Howling Madness, like, comment, share. I'm out. Later.